Charles do Bronx Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot goes down this Saturday night, and I want to give you my breakdown and prediction for the main event going down at UFC Rio de Janeiro. I almost called it Sao Paulo. I just know that's where Oliveira is from, so my mind was about to default to it being in Sao Paulo, but it's in Rio de Janeiro. So, Charles Oliveira is back relatively quickly after getting, sent to the Shadow Realm by Ilya El Matador Topuria. And a lot of fans, including myself, do think that this is a little too soon for do Bronx to be coming back, that he should rest, that he should have taken time off. Originally, he was actually supposed to fight, in my opinion, a more dangerous opponent in Rafael Fiziev, because Rafael Fiziev is a very dangerous striker, an explosive kickboxer with heavy hands, heavy kicks, and maybe the worst could have happened in that fight, even though on paper, Rafael is not on the level of a Charles do Bronx. But now that Fiziev is out, Gamrot is in. So what's going to happen in this fight? Well, Mateusz Gamrot is not really known for his striking or his power. His stand-up is very, mediocre at best. It's, effective maybe against certain levels of competition, but he's mainly known for just grinding guys out with his pace, with his grappling pressure. That's usually how he wins fights. I mean, that's how he beat his last opponent, Ludovic Klein. That's how he's beat a lot of people. That's how he's beaten RDA. That's how he kind of beat Jalen Turner, although a lot of people might question that win. But is he going to do that to Charles Oliveira? Well, this is relatively short notice for do Bronx, and there is a bug on my screen. Nice. Not distracting at all. Now I lost my train of thought. I'm going to try to regroup. That bug distracted me. That insect distracted me. But what I was saying is, this is short notice for Oliveira. He was preparing for a striker in Rafael Fiziev. Now, maybe he was preparing to wrestle offensively, because sometimes there are fights where do Bronx, he will go out there and he will look for takedowns. He's done that against Tony Ferguson. He's done that against Michael Chandler. Maybe he was preparing to wrestle Fiziev, knowing how dangerous Fiziev is on the feet. But he wasn't preparing to defend takedowns, because he knew Rafael was going to look to stay the heck out of the ground or off the ground with him. But now on short notice, he has to prepare for a wrestler last minute. He's got to scramble last minute. So do I think his, defensive wrestling is going to be up to speed on such short notice? I don't. But does that necessarily mean that now he's totally cooked? Not necessarily. Because even though it's not really ideal for do Bronx to just be on his back or to give up takedowns or fail to defend takedowns, Charles do Bronx Oliveira has a very high-level jiu-jitsu game. He's very dangerous off his back, very difficult to deal with from his back. And it would be a risk for Gamrot to go out there and just wrestle this guy. And I mean, look, Makhachev was able to take him down and dominate and not get subbed, but that's Islam Makhachev. Makhachev is more high level on the ground with his top pressure than Gamrot. Arman Tsarukyan, who Gamrot robbed, by the way, dominated Oliveira on the ground, was able to negate the sub attempts, but not without almost getting subbed a couple of times. I mean, in the first round, he was going to get guillotined out cold if his shorts didn't slip off. He almost got, I think, triangle choked at the end of the second round, saved by the bell. So the danger is always going to be there with do Bronx. And at the end of round 3, Arman was just barely holding on when Oliveira went for a Darce choke. But Arman Tsarukyan just has a neck of steel. That's why he didn't get subbed. But will Gamrot be able to just go out there and just, wrestle screw Charles Oliveira? I don't want to cuss and say the F word. I got to be careful. I mean, no, I don't have to be careful. I just kind of like to sometimes keep it PG on these videos. But is he just going to go out there and do his wrestling and pace thing on Oliveira on short notice with Oliveira not being prepared? Will he be able to wrestle Oliveira while being able to avoid the submissions? I honestly don't think Gamrot's ever fought anyone as dangerous on the ground as Charles. I mean, he fought Carlos Diego Ferreira, but Carlos Diego Ferreira is not as competent from bottom as do Bronx. Now he fought Benil. Benil is just known for having great takedown defense, great scrambling. He doesn't play that bottom game like Oliveira does. So we can't really say much off that one. RDA, great jiu-jitsu, but only effective when he's from the top position, not when he's off his back. Wrestling obviously favors Gamrot. Jiu-jitsu favors Charles Oliveira, but it is short notice. Oliveira's been out wrestled before. Oliveira is the better striker. Oliveira has a power advantage. Like, on the feet, Oliveira clears Gamrot. But how long can he keep it standing? Can he get to Gamrot's chin before Gamrot can get to his hips? I'm trying to weigh all the options and nuance in this matchup. I'm just going to go with Charles Oliveira to win this fight against Mateusz Gamrot. Now, I am 0-1 to start the month of October with main event predictions, okay? Because that did not go well when I picked Big Ank to beat Poatan, okay? I was dead wrong about that. But I don't want to be dead wrong about this fight either. But what I will say is Brazilians, they've been breaking the anti-Brazil main event curse. It started with Johnny Walker, when he beat Zhang in China, not Wei Li, the male Zhang. And then, of course, Kyle lost to Nazardine Imavov, but I wouldn't say that's like the curse resurfacing, because then you had a double Brazilian headliner between Jean Silva and Diego Lopez. And whoever would have won that fight, Brazil was winning either way. Lopez won, and then Alex Pereira, a Brazilian, just won in a big way in the last pay-per-view. So that should be a good omen for Charles Oliveira. The Brazil curse is done in main events. And stylistically, I just do think Oliveira is the better fighter. Now, I am worried about how his, wrestling defense will hold up on short notice. Part of me does worry that Gamrot's just going to go out there, take him down safely, blanket Oliveira with no consequences. That does worry me. That thought does occur to the back of my mind. But Oliveira, he just has way too much experience, more experience than Gamrot, and he's just too dangerous for Gamrot everywhere. Like, even if he can't defend Gamrot's takedowns, that jiu-jitsu of Oliveira, it just comes to him like a muscle memory. Every time he's fighting from his guard, he knows how to latch up or time an armbar or a triangle choke. Every time you shoot the wrong kind of takedown, he knows how to lock in a guillotine. He just knows how to scramble. This guy is like the jiu-jitsu master. I think he holds the record for like the most submission wins in UFC history, lightweight history. It's either in lightweight history or UFC history. I'm going to assume it's UFC history. And another thing, I just think Gamrot is super overrated as well, okay? Gamrot's like 8-3 in the UFC, but I don't think he's that good. And yeah, he's 25-3. I still don't think he's that good. He's 8-3 in the UFC against who? Let's look at it. Okay, so he lost to Guram Kutateladze, is he even in the UFC anymore? That guy went on to be a failed prospect. He was never that guy. I know it was a split decision, but still. Okay, Scott Holtzman, bum. Now, he did KO him, which is impressive, okay? And then Jeremy Stevens, journeyman. I mean, he's doing his thing in BKFC, but wasn't doing his thing in the UFC. Carlos Diego Ferreira, at that point, kind of washed up. Didn't he get injured in that fight, too? I'm pretty sure there was, like, some kind of freak injury. But yeah, I think Carlos Diego is on a bit of a decline around 2021. Then he beat Arman Tsarukyan, but I don't think he won that fight against Arman. I remember that fight so well. I remember thinking Arman Tsarukyan won, and I'm pretty sure the judges gave Gamrot the very round that he got dropped in. And that's why Arman ended up losing that fight. I could be wrong. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but Arman should have won that fight. Arman would kill him in a rematch. He went on to get schooled by Beneil Dariush, who went on to get knocked the fuck out by Charles Oliveira. Oh, there it is. I cussed. Went on to get, destroyed by Oliveira and Armin, right? So that win, or that loss, rather, sorry, didn't really age the best. And then, okay, he beat Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner retired. Beat Rafael Fiziev. Fluke injury. Fiziev probably would have won that fight without the injury, and he ducked the rematch. RDA, a washed-up veteran, loses to every wrestler he faces. Let Dan Hooker, who should have been a stylistic layup, beat him, and then beat Ludovic Klein, who's not that good of a fighter. How impressive can we say Mateusz Gamrot's resume really is? What has he done that tells me he's going to go out there and beat Charles do Bronx Oliveira? I just don't see it. And then even that fight with Jalen Turner, let's talk about it. I thought he beat Turner, but he did not look impressive in that fight. It was a split decision. Okay, he was getting outstruck, and he got hurt multiple times against Jalen Turner. Okay? And you don't think a guy like Charles Oliveira can have him in the trouble Jalen Turner had him in? Rafael dos Anjos dropped him in the first round. And then, okay, Gamrot locked in and then started going to town with his wrestling. I was going to say wrestle town. But he went Marab on him and won a decision. But that didn't work when he fought Hooker. He got dropped multiple times by Dan Hooker and couldn't wrestle his way to victory. It was a close fight that could have gone either way, and it went Dan Hooker's way. And he did what he did to Ludovic Klein because Ludovic Klein is ass, man. And then Charles Oliveira, okay, look, he's 2-3 in his last 5, okay, and he's 2-2 in his last 4 since losing to Islam Makhachev, okay? But who is this guy losing to? He's losing to some of the best of the best. Excuse this stupid freaking motorcycle. I hate my inconsiderate neighbors. They're so freaking annoying. Yeah, we get it. You have a stupid, flashy motorcycle. No one gives a fuck, bro. Anyway, since losing to Islam Makhachev, he beat Beneil Dariush, and then he lost to Armin Tsarukyan. Armin Tsarukyan, I believe, could be the best lightweight, was the second best to Islam while Islam was here, and could be the second best outside, or the second best to Ilya, the best outside of Ilya. And it was a split decision. I thought Armin clearly won that fight. Plus, I picked him to win that fight as well, right? I called him winning that fight as well. I'm losing my train of thought because that stupid idiot on that motorcycle. Anyway, I knew Armin was going to beat Charles, but Charles gave a good showing. He won the first round because of the near-mounted guillotine he almost got. And I think maybe one judge gave Charles the third because of at the end he had, Armin Tsarukyan in that Darce choke attempt. But he loses to Armin. Okay, he beats Awash Chandler again. But then he loses to Ilya Topuria by a vicious knockout. But these are not bad guys to lose to. He lost to the pound-for-pound number 1. I think Islam is like the pound-for-pound number 2. But Beneil Dariush, even though, he went on a losing streak, he just recently bounced back against Renato Moicano. Okay, Chandler is a quality win, even though right now he's not really in the best stage of his career. He beat guys like Gaethje, Poirier, Chandler closer to his prime. He has a way better resume, a way better strength of schedule than Mateusz Gamrot, okay? His losses are more forgivable, more acceptable. Oliveira is not out here losing to Beneil Dariush, okay? He's not out here losing to Beneil, nearly losing to Jalen Turner, losing to frickin' Dan Hooker or Guram, okay? He's losing to the best of the best, and he's beating some of the best guys, okay? I feel like Charles Oliveira winning or losing this fight is ultimately going to come down to what version of Charles Oliveira we see on Saturday. Okay, are we going to see Charles Oliveira past his prime? Is he going to be washed up? Because that's another factor I have to weigh in. Oliveira's 35. I think he's going to be 36 this month or 37. I'm not sure. So he's not getting any younger. And, Gamrot is on the younger side of his career. Okay, he's the younger guy, closer to his prime. If Oliveira is washed up, I'm going to say Charles Oliveira will lose to Gamrot. But if we see a version of Oliveira closer to what we saw of the guy that almost beat Arman, the guy that smashed Beneil Dariush in the first round, right? The guy who dominated Michael Chandler for 5 rounds. If we see anywhere near close to that version of Oliveira, or anywhere near close to the version of Oliveira who we saw on his title run, I just don't see Gamrot winning this fight. And how I think Oliveira is going to beat Gamrot, I wouldn't say it's really bold though. I was going to say I'm going to go bold, but Oliveira by sub isn't bold. I think Oliveira is going to guillotine Gamrot. I do think early on it's going to be very competitive. I think Gamrot's going to go out there, maybe test the striking a little bit, maybe land a few good shots, but Oliveira will adapt and ultimately control the exchanges, which will then lead to Gamrot grabbing a hold of him, looking for the takedowns. He'll get Oliveira down. They're going to scramble with each other on the mat. Gamrot might, take advantage of the early scrambles. He might fight off some early leg lock attempts of Oliveira. He might get off some good early ground and pound on Oliveira. He might even win round 1 against Oliveira, but it's going to be very close. Then I think round 2, Oliveira is going to continue to amp up that pressure. He might start to adjust to the takedowns of Gamrot. He might start defending the takedowns of Gamrot more. And he might start touching Gamrot on the feet more. And I'm going to say that one of these shots he connects on Gamrot is going to hurt Gamrot. And I think when Gamrot gets hurt or really starts to feel the pressure, he's going to shoot a bad takedown with his head on the outside. And he's going to get his neck wrapped up by Oliveira. And I'm going to say Oliveira maybe gets a mounted guillotine, similar to what he almost got Arman Tsarukyan with, except Gamrot's shorts don't slip out. He has nowhere to go. Now, will Gamrot tap? He does have a lot of heart, so he'll probably choose blacking out over tapping out. So I'm going to say Oliveira chokes him out cold with a guillotine choke. Or maybe Oliveira TKOs him as well. But I mean, if this fight does go the distance, based off their styles, Gamrot will probably squeak out a decision, maybe a close decision. But it's a 5-round fight. Oliveira doesn't have bad cardio. Neither does Gamrot. Both guys have good cardio. But 5 rounds with someone as complete and as dangerous as Oliveira, it just gives Oliveira too much time to find something, to find a kill shot on the feet or to find a submission on the ground in a scramble, where I feel like Gamrot's only way to win this fight is to grind Oliveira out to a decision. But I just cannot see him not getting caught in something. Charles almost got Arman. I see him getting Gamrot. But that's it for my, breakdown and prediction for this main event. Man, if I am wrong, if I'm 0-2 on main events to start the month of October, that's going to sting. That's going to take a blow to my pride right there, man. And it's going to show, if Oliveira loses this fight, it's just going to show how far gone Oliveira is. And it will probably, Oliveira might look like a cautionary tale of what happens when you don't take the time off from being knocked out. And that knockout loss could have changed Oliveira for the worse, for all we know. Getting your brain damaged up like that won't only affect your chin, it could also kind of affect your confidence, your aggression, your ground game, how reactive you are. So who knows? But I have faith in Do Bronx. Gamrot is less dangerous than Fiziev. Even though, yes, Gamrot does have some knockouts, he just has less of a knockout threat than a Fiziev, so I'm less worried. But let me know your prediction in the comment section down below. Who do you guys got winning? Do Bronx or Gamer? And peace out.